Surefoot. Surefoot 1887–1904 was a British thoroughbred racehorse and sire whose exceptional racing ability was combined with a violent and unpredictable temperament. As a juvenile in 1889, he was regarded as the best colt of his generation in England, after winning 3 of his 4 races including the Woodcote Stakes and New Stakes. He also demonstrated his precocity by reportedly siring a foal as a 2-year-old. In 1890, he was an emphatic winner of the 2000 Guineas, but despite being regarded as a near certainty for the Epsom Derby, he finished 4th after spending much of the race attempting to savage other horses and jockeys. He went on to win a minor race at Royal Ascot and later defeated a strong field to take the valuable Prince of Wales Stakes at Leicester Racecourse. As a 4-year-old, he showed little worthwhile form early in the season but returned to his best to win the Eclipse Stakes. After his retirement from racing he stood as a breeding stallion in England and France but had limited success as a sire of winners. Background: Surefoot was a big, perfectly formed bay horse bred in England by his owner Mr. A.W. Archie Merry, the son of James Merry. The colt was sent into training with Charles Joseph at Seven Barrows, near Longbourn in Berkshire, where he was assigned to the box previously occupied by Bendigo. He was ridden in almost all of his races by the Edinburgh-born jockey John Lydiard. His sire Wisdom, who died in 1893, was a failure as a racehorse but became a highly successful stallion, siring good horses such as Sir Hugo, Love Wisely, Ascot Gold Cup, and Les Aegis. Surefoot's dam, an unnamed mare by Gallopin, was a granddaughter of the influential British broodmare Gossamer foaled 1849. Racing career: 1889, 2-year-old season. In 1888, the English sportsman Sir John Willoughby opened a book on the 1890 Epsom Derby and accepted a bet £100 on Surefoot at odds of 100/1, meaning that he stood to lose £10,000. Surefoot recorded his first significant success on his racecourse debut in the Woodcote Stakes at the Derby meeting at Epsom Racecourse when he won by half a length from Heresy. At Royal Ascot in June he sustained his only defeat of the season in the biennial stakes, when he was beaten ahead after a desperate struggle with the filly Semolina. In the New Stakes 2 days later, at the same meeting, he was ridden by John Lydiard and won easily by a length from home at odds of 5/4. After the race he was backed at odds of 6/1 for the following year's Epsom Derby. In the Finden Stakes over 6 furlongs at Goodwood Racecourse on 2 August, Surefoot started at odds of 6/100 against 2 opponents and won in a canter by 3 lengths from the filly Red Thorn. Despite failing to reappear after his Goodwood victory, Surefoot ended the year with earnings of £24.11 and headed the Derby betting on 4/1 with his nearest rivals being Leonard Dewhurst Stakes, Home Challenge Stakes and the Filly Riviera Champagne Stakes. He was described as the best 2-year-old colt of the year, although some doubts were expressed about his temperament and ability to withstand hard training. It was later reported that at some point in 1889, Surefoot had broken his way into a paddock containing several broodmares, and that at least one foal was born as a result of his escapade. 1890, 3-year-old season. Spring. Early in 1890, a visitor to Seven Barrows described the colt as gross in constitution, lusty, clean in the pipes, with extraordinary muscular development, and nearly the finest 3-year-old I have ever looked over. Surefoot began his second campaign when he was one of 9 colts to contest the 82nd running of the 2000 Guineas over the Rolling Mile at Newmarket on 30 April. With Lydiard again in the saddle, he was made the 5/4 favourite, ahead of Leonard 15/8, while the only other runners to start at less than 20/1 were the Duke of Portland's St. Cerf and the Duke of Westminster's Blue Brew. Presumably on account of his nervous disposition, he was saddled at the start rather than taking part in the mounted parade in front of the stand. Surefoot led from the start under strong restraint before Lydiard allowed him to stride out a furlong from the finish. He romped away from his opponents and won in the easiest possible style, by a length and a half from Lenord, with 5 lengths back to Blue-Green in third. After the race he still appeared full of energy and looked as though he had merely completed an exercise canter. Summer. On 4 June at Epsom Racecourse, Surefoot started the 40/95 favourite for the Derby Stakes, with the best fenced of his 7 opponents being the John Porter-trained Saint Foin. The journey from Lambourn to Epsom had not been an easy one, with Surefoot's behaviour in the horsebox being likened to that of a Mercian bull. When the contest began he raced in mid-division for most of the way in a slowly run race, and turned into the straight in 4th place. He made some progress under strong driving in the last quarter mile, but became the shortest price-beaten favourite in the race's history as he came home 4th behind Saint Foin. Surefoot had not improved his chances by his demoniacal temper. After the race Archie Mary was seen gesticulating wildly at a visibly distressed Lydiard. Although there was some criticism of Lydiard for not taking the colt to front early in the race, other observers pointed out that Surefoot refused to cooperate with his jockey and blamed the owner and trainer for mollycoddling and pampering the horse, thus rendering him temperamentally ill-prepared for the occasion. Surefoot ran 3 times at Royal Ascot later in June. He was equipped with blinkers for the Prince of Wales's stakes over 13 furlongs and started 5/4 favourite, but after leading for most of the way he faded in the straight and finished 4th behind Alloway, Blue-Green and Hebrides. On the following afternoon he won a biennial stakes over 1 mile against very moderate opposition. On the final day of the meeting 2 days later he faced a rematch with Saint Foin in the Hardwicke Stakes, but neither proved any match for the 4-year-old Amphion, who won easily by a length from the Derby winner, with Surefoot 4 lengths back in third. On 9 July the colt was dropped back in distance for the £8,500 Prince of Wales Stakes over 1 mile at Leicester Racecourse, and was made the 5/2 favourite in an 8-runner field, which also included Memoir winner of the Epsom Oaks, Oddfellow third in the Grand Prix de Paris, Lenord and Alloway. Despite showing his customary bad temper at the start, where he refused to line up with the other horses, Surefoot quickly took the lead and opened up a clear advantage. Memoir emerged as his only threat in the closing stages, but he shook off the filly's challenge and drew away to win by 2 lengths, with a gap of 5 lengths back to Alloway in third. Autumn. At Doncaster Racecourse on 10 September, Surefoot was stepped up in distance for the St Leger Stakes over 14.5 furlongs and started the 8/1/4 choice in the betting. He was restrained towards the rear of the 15-runner field, but lost any chance of winning when he was struck into from behind by St Cerf and finished 10th behind Memoir. Surefoot ended his season in the free handicap over 10 furlongs at Newmarket in October, in which he carried joint top weight of 131 pounds and finished 4th behind St Cerf 120 pounds, Martagon 106 and Blue-Green 120, with Saint Foin 131 in 5th and last place. Surefoot ended the year with earnings of £12,000. 1891, 4-year-old season. Charles Joseph, who had been suffering from heart problem for several years, died in early 1891, and the training of Surefoot was taken over by Garrett Moore. The colt began his 3rd campaign in the Great Jubilee Handicap over 1 mile at Kempton Park Racecourse on 9 May, in which he carried top weight of 131 pounds and started the 100/30 favourite. He finished unplaced behind the 5-year-old Nunthorpe, with his rapid retreat in the last 3 furlongs being ascribed to either inability or bad temper. At Royal Ascot he was dropped back to sprint distances for the Queen's Stand Plate and finished down the field behind the 2-year-old filly Lady Caroline. At Sandown Park on 9 July, Surefoot, carrying 142 pounds, started at odds of 100/8 for the 4th running of the Eclipse Stakes over 10 furlongs. The Derby winner Common started the odds-on favourite, while the other 7 runners included Memoir, Gouverneur runner-up in the Derby, Lenord and Alloway. Surefoot misbehaved as usual before and after the race, rearing up and scattering the crowd in all directions. In the race he settled behind the leaders before moving up on the outside in the straight. A furlong out Common and Gouverneur were locked together and fighting out the finish when Lydiard unleashed Surefoot, who produced a powerful late run. The older horse gained the advantage in the final strides and won by half a length and a short head from Gouverneur and Common. After Surefoot's victory it was reported that Mary intended to retire the horse to stud before his temper was irretrievably ruined. Stud record. At the end of his racing career, Surefoot was retired to become a breeding stallion. In 1899, he was sold to Pierre d'Arenberg and exported to France, where he died in 1904. The best of his offspring was probably Pinfold, a gelding who won the Doncaster Cup as a 3-year-old in 1898. Pedigree. Pedigree references equals